Tom Swift in the Caves of Ice by Victor Appleton. Chapter 16. The Fall of the Anthony. Had it not been for what was at stake, the race between the two big airships would have been an inspiring one to those aboard Tom's craft. As it was, they were too anxious to overcome the unfair advantage taken by Andy to look for any of the finer points in the contest of the air. "There's no denying that he's got a pretty good craft there," conceded Tom as he watched the progress of his rival. "I never thought Andy Foger could have done it." "He didn't do very much of it," declared Ned. "He hired the best part of that maid. Andy hasn't any inventive ideas. He probably said he wanted an airship, and his dad put up the money and hired men to build it for him. Andy, Sam, and Pete only tinkered around on it." Later, Tom and his chum learned that this was so, that Mr. Foger had engaged the services of an expert to make the airship. This man had been taken to Sitka with the Fogers and had materially aided them in reassembling the craft. "Do you think he can beat us?" asked Ned anxiously. "No," exclaimed Tom confidently. "There's only one craft that can beat my Red Cloud, and that's my monoplane, the Butterfly. But I have in mind plans for a speedier machine than even the monoplane. However, I haven't any fear that Andy can keep up to us in this craft. I haven't begun to fly yet, and I'm pretty sure, from the way his is going, that he has used his limit of speed." "Then why don't you get ahead of him?" asked Mr. Damon. "That's my tape measure. The way to win a race is to beat." "Not this kind of race," and the young inventor spoke seriously. "If I got ahead of Andy now, he'd simply trail along and follow us. That's his game. He wants me to be the pathfinder, for since I cast a doubt on the correctness of the map, a copy of which he stole, he isn't sure where he's going. He'd ask nothing better than to follow us." "Then what are you going to do if you don't get ahead of him?" asked Ned. "I'm going to press him close until night," answered Tom, "and when it's dark, I'm going to shoot ahead, and by morning we'll be so far away that he can't catch up to us." "Good idea. That's the stuff," cried Abe with enthusiasm. "He's a sneak," burst out Mr. Damon. "I'd like to see him left behind." Tom carried out his plan, and the remainder of the day he hung just on Andy's flank, sometimes shooting high up, almost out of sight, and again coming down, just to show what the Red Cloud could do when pressed. As for those aboard the Anthony, they seemed to be trying to increase their speed, but if that was their object, they did not have much success, for the big, clumsy triplane only labored along. "I wonder who he's got with him," said Ned, as darkness was closing down. "I can't make out any one by this glass. They stick pretty closely to the cabin." "Oh, probably Andy's father is there," said Tom, "and perhaps some of Mr. Foger's acquaintances. I guess Mr. Foger is as anxious to get this gold as Andy is." "He certainly needs money," admitted Ned. "Jove, but I hope we beat him." But alas for Tom's hopes. His plan of waiting until night and then putting on such speed as would leave Andy behind could not be carried out. It was tried, but something went wrong with the main motor, and only half power could be developed. Tom and Ned labored over it nearly all night, to no effect, and through the hours of darkness they could see the lights from the cabin of the Anthony gleaming just ahead of them. Evidently, the bully's airship could not make enough speed to run away from the Red Cloud, or else it was the plan of the Foger crowd to keep in Tom's vicinity. The direction held by Andy's craft was a general northwestern one, and Tom knew in time, and that very soon it would bring the Anthony over the Valley of Gold. Evidently, Andy was placing some faith in his copy of the stolen map. "Once I get this motor in shape, I'll soon pull away from him," announced Tom, about 4 o'clock that morning, while he and Ned, aided by Mr. Damon, were still laboring over the refractory machine. "What are you going to do?" asked Ned. "It's too late to carry out my original plan," went on Tom. "We're getting so near the place now that I want to be there ahead of everyone else. So as soon as we can, I'm going to push the Red Cloud for all she's worth and get into the Valley of Gold first. If possession is 9 points of the law, I want those 9 points." "That's the way to talk," cried Abe. Once we get on the ground, we can hold our own." It was breakfast time before Tom had the motor repaired, and he decided to have a good meal before starting to speed up his craft. He felt better after some hot coffee, for he and the others were weary from their night of labor. "Now for the test," he cried, as he went back to the engine room. "Here's where we give Andy the go-by, and I don't think he can catch us." There was an increasing hum to the powerful motor. The great propellers whirled around at twice their former number of revolutions, and the airship suddenly shot ahead. Those on the Anthony must have been watching for some such moves as that, for no sooner had Tom's craft begun to creep up on his rival than the forward craft also shot ahead. But the airship was not built that could compete with Tom's. Like a racer overhauling a cart horse, the Red Cloud whizzed through the air. In a spirit of fun, the young inventor sent his machine within a few feet of Andy's. He had a double purpose in this, for he wanted to show the bully that he did not fear him, and he wanted to see if he could discover who was aboard. Tom did catch a glimpse of Andy and his father in the cabin of the Anthony, and he also saw a couple of men working frantically over the machinery. "They're going to try to catch us," called Tom to Ned. This was evident a moment later, for after the Red Cloud had forged ahead, her rival made a clumsy attempt to follow. The Anthony did show a burst of speed, and for a moment Tom was apprehensive lest he had underrated his rival's prowess. Suddenly, Ned, who was looking from a projecting side window of the pilot-house back at Andy's ship, cried out in alarm. "What's the matter?" shouted Tom. "The airship, Andy's. Two of the main wings have collapsed." Tom looked. It was but too true. The strain under which the Anthony had been put when the machinist increased the speed had been too much for the frame. Two wings broke, and had now hung uselessly down, one on either side. The Anthony shot toward the snow-covered earth. "They're falling!" cried Mr. Parker. "Yes," added Tom grimly. "The race is over as far as they are concerned." "Bless my soul, won't they be killed?" cried Mr. Damon. "There's not much danger," replied the young inventor. "They can volplane back to Earth. That's what they're doing," he added a moment later as he witnessed the maneuver of the crippled craft. "They're in no danger, but I don't believe they'll get to the Valley of Gold this trip." Tom was soon to learn how easily he could be mistaken. End of chapter 16.